The Zephyrian research ship Gentle Current floated dead in space like a broken piece of glass. Captain Valthera looked at her control panel with shaking hands. Everything was going wrong, and fast. Her ship was beautiful but fragile, made of living crystal that grew instead of being built. The Zephyrians were peaceful people who had never known war. They spent their days studying plants and flowers from different worlds, collecting seeds and samples to help other planets grow food. Their ships were built for science, not fighting. But now their engine was dead. The crystal core that powered everything had cracked during a routine jump to Sector 7, one of the most dangerous parts of the galaxy. Steam and glowing gas leaked from the broken engine, filling the ship with toxic fumes. "Captain, we're losing. Air fast," said Navigator Quindel, his crystal body dimming with fear. The Zephyrians could speak through their minds, but when scared, their voices became weak whispers. "The plants we collected are dying too. The poison in the air is killing everything." Valthera felt sick. Her crew of 12 scientists had families back home. They had children waiting for them to return with stories of new worlds and strange flowers. Now they might never see home again. Captain Science Officer Maryland's voice cracked with terror. "I'm reading 3 ships on the scanner. They're big, and they're coming straight for us." Valthera's heart sank. She knew those signatures. Vrak Raiders. The Vrak were brutal pirates who captured peaceful ships and sold the crews as slaves. They were known across the galaxy for their cruelty. They would strip the Gentle Current for parts and drag her crew away in chains. The Vrak ships were getting closer every second. On the scanner, they looked like hungry sharks circling wounded prey. Valthera knew her research vessel had no weapons, no shields, no way to fight back or run away. "We have to send a distress signal," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "Maybe someone will hear us." Quindel hesitated, his crystal fingers hovering over the controls. "Captain, if we broadcast on all channels, we might call something even worse than pirates. Military ships use some of those frequencies. What if we accidentally call for help from a war fleet?" Valthera looked around at her dying crew. The air was getting thinner by the minute. The toxic gas from the broken engine was making everyone sick. Through the crystal walls, she could see the Vrak ships getting bigger and bigger. "We're going to die anyway," she said quietly. "Either from the poison air, or from those pirates. At least this way, someone might remember what happened to us." She activated the emergency beacon herself. The signal shot out into space like a desperate scream, traveling faster than light to reach anyone who might be listening. "Mayday, Mayday," her voice echoed through the ship's communication system. "This is the research vessel Gentle Current. We are scientists in distress. Our life support is failing. Hostile ships are approaching our position. Please, if anyone can hear this message, we need help immediately. We have no weapons, no defenses. We're just researchers studying plants. Please, help us." The message flew across the galaxy, bouncing off communication satellites and space stations. Most of the galaxy would hear it as just another tragedy. Ships got lost in space all the time. Pirates attacked peaceful vessels every day. The universe was a dangerous place for those who couldn't fight back. But Valthera didn't know something important about the frequency she was using. In her panic, she had accidentally broadcast on a special military channel used only by the Terran Defense Force. This was the same frequency that human warships used to call for backup during the worst emergencies. Somewhere far away, on a massive human warship, alarms started ringing. Computer screens lit up with urgent messages. Battle-hardened soldiers who had never heard of the Zephyrians suddenly found themselves listening to the terrified plea of crystal beings they had never met. The signal had reached the Death Humans, the species the galaxy called Deathworlders, because they came from a planet so dangerous that it had turned them into the perfect warriors. And humans had one rule that every species in the galaxy had learned to fear. They always answered a call for help. The gentle current continued to drift helplessly through space, unaware that their desperate message had just changed the course of galactic history. Admiral Jake Morrison sat in his private office, reading boring patrol reports, when suddenly loud alarms started blaring throughout his massive warship. The sound was so loud and urgent that he dropped his coffee mug, spilling the hot liquid across his desk. "Admiral Morrison, get to the bridge right now," came the voice of Lieutenant Commander Beth Collins over the ship's communication system. Her voice was tight with stress, which meant something serious was happening. Morrison jumped up from his chair and ran through the corridors of the Iron Resolve, the biggest and most powerful warship in the human fleet. The ship was over 2 miles long and carried enough firepower to destroy entire planets. As he ran, other crew members stepped aside and saluted, but he barely noticed them. When Morrison burst onto the bridge, he found his crew moving with the quick, precise movements of people who had trained for emergencies their whole lives. Every screen was lit up with flashing red warnings. The main display showed a map of space around their current position near the edge of known space. "What's the situation?" Morrison demanded, his voice cutting through the noise. Lieutenant Commander Collins, a tough woman who had fought in 12 major battles, looked up from her station. "Sir, we just picked up a distress call on Alpha frequency. That's our most secure military channel. Someone is under attack by Vrak pirates in Sector 7. Their life support systems are failing fast." Morrison's face went hard. The Alpha frequency was supposed to be used only by human military ships and their closest allies during the worst emergencies. How did someone else get access to it? "How far away are they?" he asked. Navigation Officer Dan Cooper, who had been calculating jump coordinates, looked up with sweat on his forehead. 47 minutes, if we push our engines to maximum speed, sir. But that's really pushing it." Before Morrison could respond, Communications Specialist Kelly Rodriguez interrupted. "Admiral, there's something strange about this signal. The voice patterns and technology don't match anything in our database. This isn't coming from any human ship or any of our allies. Sir, I think this might be our first contact with a completely new alien species." Morrison paused for just a moment. First contact with aliens was supposed to be handled by diplomats and scientists, not warships. There were protocols, procedures, careful steps that were supposed to be followed. But someone was dying out there, and Morrison had been a soldier for 23 years. He had learned one simple rule that guided everything he did. When someone calls for help, you help them. Everything else can be figured out later. "Send a message to all ships in our battle group," Morrison ordered, his voice calm but determined. "We're making an emergency jump to Sector 7. All ships go to battle stations immediately. If pirates are attacking innocent people, they're about to learn why you don't mess with humans." The bridge crew moved like a well-oiled machine. Within minutes, Morrison's entire fleet was ready for combat. The Iron Resolve led the charge, followed by 4 deadly destroyer ships: the Asterisk Lightning, Strike, the Thunder Bay, the Stormfront, and the Nighthawk Asterisk. Each ship was packed with weapons and crewed by humans who had volunteered to risk their lives protecting others. These 5 ships represented the finest of human military technology. They had shields that could stop planet-killing weapons, engines that could cross the galaxy in days, and enough firepower to fight entire enemy fleets. But more importantly, they were crewed by humans who believed that protecting innocent people was worth any risk. "Jump drives charging," reported Chief Engineer Matt Williams from the engine room. "All ships report ready for combat jump. Execute. Jump in 3, 2, 1. Morrison commanded. Space around the human fleet suddenly twisted and bent as 5 massive warships disappeared from normal space, traveling faster than light toward a desperate alien distress call. They had no idea what they would find when they arrived, but they knew one thing for certain: whoever was attacking those aliens was about to face the full might of humanity's protective fury. In 47 minutes, the wrack pirates would learn why humans were called the most dangerous species in the galaxy. Not because they loved war, but because they would fight anyone who hurt innocent people. The rescue was coming. The empty space around the dying gentle current suddenly exploded with brilliant flashes of light as 5 enormous human warships appeared out of nowhere. The ships materialized in perfect military formation, like wolves surrounding wounded prey. Captain Velthara stared in absolute horror at her control screens. The numbers didn't make sense. The energy readings were so high that her instruments kept shutting down and restarting, unable to process what they were seeing. "By the ancient crystals," she whispered, her crystal body shaking so hard that light scattered through her like broken glass. "What terrible thing have we called to us?" The largest ship at the front of the human formation was a monster. It was 3 times bigger than her entire research vessel, a massive gray beast covered in weapon ports and armor plating. Every surface bristled with guns that could destroy planets. Behind it, for smaller ships spread out in an attack pattern that showed these humans knew exactly how to fight and kill. Science Officer Mirlin's voice broke with pure terror. "Captain, those are Terran ships. The Deathworlders heard our call for help. Every intelligent species in the galaxy knew the stories about humans. They came from a planet called Earth that was so dangerous and violent that it had turned them into perfect killing machines. Earth had massive storms that could destroy cities, earthquakes that split continents, and wild animals that humans had to fight just to survive. The planet had made them strong, clever, and absolutely ruthless. The stories said humans fought wars that lasted for decades, turning entire solar systems into graveyards filled with the wreckage of destroyed fleets. They never gave up, never surrendered, and never showed mercy to their enemies. When humans went to war, they didn't stop until everything that opposed them was dead. "They're going to enslave us," whispered Navigator Quindel, his crystal form flickering between different colors as fear overwhelmed him. "Or worse, maybe they'll use us for experiments. I've heard humans do terrible things to other species." Meanwhile, on the bridge of the Iron Resolve, Admiral Morrison was staring at his tactical display with a confused frown on his face. Something was wrong with this picture. "Where are the wrack pirates?" he demanded, looking at his officers. "I thought we were coming to fight raiders." Navigation Officer Dan Cooper checked his long-range sensors twice before answering. "Sir, I'm reading 3 ships running away at maximum speed. They jumped into hyperspace the second we arrived. They're gone." Morrison studied the alien ship floating helplessly in front of them. It was the most beautiful thing he had ever seen. In space, the vessel looked like it was made of living crystal, catching and reflecting starlight in patterns that seemed almost magical, but it was also clearly dying. He could see atmosphere leaking from cracks in the hull, power systems failing throughout the ship, and what looked like a completely dead engine core. This wasn't a military vessel. It had no weapons, no armor, no shields. It looked more like a work of art than a spaceship. Communications specialist Kelly Rodriguez was working frantically at her station, trying to make contact with the alien vessel. "Their technology is completely different from anything we've ever seen," she reported. "I'm having trouble establishing a connection, but I think I'm getting something. Wait, yes, I have audio contact." The bridge speakers crackled to life with a weak, frightened voice. "Please, we mean you no harm. We are researchers, botanists. We study plants, not war. We have no weapons, no military secrets. Please don't hurt us." Admiral Morrison felt his heart break a little. These weren't enemy soldiers or dangerous pirates. These were scientists, terrified researchers who were probably convinced that the scary humans were going to kill them all. He had spent 23 years fighting to protect innocent people, and now innocent people were afraid of him. The irony was bitter. His ships had scared away the real pirates, But now the people he had come to save thought he was the monster. "Open a channel back to them," Morrison ordered gently. "Let's see if we can convince them we're here to help, not hurt them." This was going to be the most important conversation in galactic history, and Morrison had no idea how to begin. How do you tell a terrified alien that the big scary warships aren't there to conquer them, but to save them? Unknown vessel. This is Admiral Jake Morrison of the Terran Defense Force. We received your distress call. Do you require immediate assistance? The voice that came through the speakers was nothing like what Captain Velthara had expected. It wasn't harsh or threatening. Instead, it sounded calm, professional, and almost gentle, like a doctor asking about a patient's condition. Velthara stared at her crew in complete shock. Her crystal body flickered with confusion as she tried to process what she was hearing. The most feared warriors in the galaxy were asking if they needed help. You wish to help us. She managed to stammer back, her voice shaking with disbelief. That's exactly why we're here, Admiral Morrison replied immediately. Our sensors are showing that your life support systems are failing badly. We're getting our medical and engineering teams ready right now. Will you let us come aboard to help you? Navigator Quindle quickly moved to Velthara's side, speaking through their telepathic link so the humans couldn't hear. Captain, this has to be some kind of trick. Everyone knows humans are masters of deception. They're probably planning to capture us the moment we let them on our ship. Velthara looked around at her crew of 12 scientists. Half of them were already unconscious from the toxic fumes leaking from their broken engine. The others were getting weaker by the minute as the air grew thinner and more poisonous. Their beautiful research ship was becoming their tomb. She had to make a choice that would either save her crew or doom them all. But looking at her dying friends, she realized they were doomed anyway if she did nothing. "We accept your assistance," she said into the communication system, her voice barely above a whisper. What happened next amazed everyone on the gentle current. The humans didn't send over armed soldiers or conquest teams. Instead, they sent engineers and doctors. Chief Petty Officer Robert Davis led a team of human engineers who worked for 18 straight hours to repair the Zephyrian ship's life support system. These rough, tough humans crawled through toxic, dangerous spaces to fix equipment they had never seen before. They didn't complain, didn't ask for payment, and didn't stop working until every Zephyrian could breathe safely again. Dr. Helen Martinez, the fleet's chief medical officer, brought human doctors who had studied alien biology their entire careers. They worked alongside the ship's medical computers to treat something they called crystal sickness, caused by radiation from the broken engine. They gave the Zephyrians medicine, oxygen, and careful medical attention until every crew member was healthy again. 3 days later, when the gentle current was fully repaired and safe, Captain Velthara met face-to-face with Admiral Morrison for the first time. She had expected to meet a cold, calculating warrior. Instead, she found a middle-aged man with kind eyes who seemed genuinely concerned about her crew's well-being. "Your people risked their lives for complete strangers," Velthara said, still trying to understand what had happened. "They worked in dangerous, toxic conditions to save us. Why would they do that?" Admiral Morrison shrugged his shoulders. A human gesture that Velthara was beginning to learn meant they considered something so obvious it didn't need explaining. "Because you needed help," he said simply. "That's reason enough. But we have nothing to give you in return," Velthara protested. "We're not warriors or soldiers. We can't help you fight your enemies. We don't have valuable technology or resources. We just study plants and flowers. We have no strategic value to your empire." Morrison looked at her with a gentle smile. "You're living beings who were in trouble," he replied. "That's all the value we need to see. We don't help people because we expect something back. We help because it's the right thing to do." Over the following weeks, as the human fleet stayed to make sure the Zephyrians were completely safe, Velthara learned something that shocked her to her core. The humans hadn't answered their distress call, expecting rewards, territory, or strategic advantages. They had risked their lives and their ships simply because their nature compelled them to protect anyone who couldn't protect themselves. The galaxy had been completely wrong about the Deathworlders. They weren't monsters who conquered and destroyed. They were guardians who protected and saved. The most dangerous thing about humans wasn't their ability to kill, it was their unwavering determination to keep others alive. This discovery would change everything the galaxy thought it knew about humanity. 3 months after the rescue, Captain Velthara stood in the most important building in the galaxy, the Galactic Council chambers on Nexus Prime. This massive dome could hold representatives from every known intelligent species, and today it was completely packed. She had never been so nervous in her entire life. The chamber was buzzing with conversation as delegates from 47 different alien species talked among themselves. Some looked like giant insects, others were floating energy beings, and still others resembled walking trees. But they all had one thing in common. They were all terrified of humans. For decades, the Galactic Council had debated what to do about the Deathworlder problem. Humans were spreading across the galaxy, and everyone assumed they would eventually try to conquer everyone else. After all, that's what powerful species always did, right? Velthara's crystal body caught the light from the chamber's ceiling, sending rainbow patterns across the walls as she stepped up to the speaking platform. Every eye, sensor, and detection organ in the room focused on her. "Honorable delegates," she began, her voice amplified so everyone could hear. "I stand before you today, not as a victim who got lucky, but as someone who witnessed the truth about the species we call Deathworlders." The massive chamber fell completely silent. You could have heard a pin drop. 3 months ago, my research ship was dying in space. Our engines had failed, our air was running out, and pirates were coming to capture us. When we sent out our distress call, we expected either no answer at all, or for someone even worse than pirates to find us. Instead, we received something that the galaxy believed was impossible from humans: complete protection with no strings attached. She activated a holographic projector that showed images of the human rescue. The delegates watched in amazement as 5 massive warships appeared to save a tiny research vessel. They saw human engineers working in toxic, dangerous conditions to repair alien technology they had never seen before. They watched human doctors treating crystal beings with medicines and techniques they had to invent on the spot. Admiral Jake Morrison and his entire fleet asked for absolutely nothing in return, Velthara continued. They didn't want our territory, our technology, or our resources. They didn't demand trade agreements or military alliances. They saved us simply because, in Admiral Morrison's words, it was the right thing to do. Worried murmurs rippled through the chamber like waves. The Altarian delegate, a blue-skinned being with 4 arms, leaned forward in his seat. "Surely the humans expected some kind of payment or reward," he said skeptically. "No species helps others for free." Velthara shook her head, making light dance through her crystal form. The only thing Admiral Morrison asked for was help setting up an emergency beacon network across the galaxy, so that other ships in distress could be found and rescued more quickly. While Velthara was changing minds in the Galactic Council, Admiral Morrison was back in human space working on something he called the Open Hand Protocol. Every human military ship in the galaxy received the same simple order: any distress call from any species would get an immediate response from the nearest human vessels. The results were amazing. Within 1 year, human rescue fleets had saved 17 different alien species from disasters. They pulled survivors from exploding space stations, fought off pirate attacks on peaceful colonies, and delivered emergency medical supplies to planets hit by plagues. The pirates and slavers, who had terrorized the galaxy for centuries, suddenly found their jobs much more dangerous. Human patrol ships had a nasty habit of showing up whenever innocent people were in trouble. Pirates learned to run the moment they detected human ships approaching. Slave traders found their operations constantly disrupted by humans who considered slavery to be an unforgivable crime. Slowly, but surely, the galaxy's most feared military became its most trusted emergency rescue service. A year later, during the ceremony to open the first joint human-Zephyrian research station, Valthera found herself walking with Admiral Morrison through the station's beautiful crystal gardens. The research station was a marvel of both human engineering and Zephyrian artistry, with living crystal walls that grew food and purified air. "Jake," she said, using the casual way of speaking that humans preferred, "I have a question that has been bothering me for months. Your people could have conquered the entire galaxy by now. You have the technology, the determination, and the willingness to sacrifice everything for what you believe in. So why did you choose to be protectors instead of conquerors?" Morrison stopped walking and gazed out through the crystal walls at the stars beyond. Somewhere out there, human patrol ships were flying through space, ready to answer the next distress call from anyone who needed help. "Because," he said quietly, "the strongest thing anyone can be isn't a conqueror who takes things from others. The strongest thing you can be is a guardian who protects others. And this galaxy needs guardians a lot more than it needs another empire." The universe had finally learned the most important truth about Deathworlders. The scariest thing about humans wasn't their ability to destroy their enemies. It was their absolute commitment to protecting innocent people, even when those same innocent people had spent years being terrified of them. The galaxy was safer now, and it would never be the same.